Welcome everybody to this live webinar. I did an author series, January, February, and it was really successful. I loved the interaction with you all. It was so great to just have some great speakers on. And it was so successful, I thought, I'm going to keep doing this. And when Abby's book came out, I just thought, you know, this is a great opportunity to get these brilliant speakers on, and someone like Abby on, who we all follow, and just we get off on all of your articles. It's amazing. And like, get her on the show and hear what she has to say, because I value almost everything Abby's ever said. When she writes, I go, oh my God, why didn't I say that? Like, you know, like, she just articulates what we're really thinking, but then she digs deep into the research. And, you know, one of Abby's like catch lines is, don't mess with science. And I like that, because that's always the place where Abby comes from. It's from an unemotional science background, but then she puts some of her personality and emotion into that too. And so a little bit about Abby. Abby is a registered dietitian, which is sort of the place I always go to when I have guests on. I try and make sure that they come from an educated background and one that we can trust. She has been a registered dietitian since 1999, educated at Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia. I think my son wants to go there, actually. I should ask you about that. And she has worked extensively in both clinical nutrition and media and consultant. She's probably one of Canada's go-to nutritionists that we all listen to. I used to live in Toronto, and that's where Abby lives as well. So when I was back there recently, I think it might have been 2 years ago now, we hooked up, didn't we, Abby? We hooked up and had coffee and a muffin, because both of us eat muffins. It's all good. And so we became firm friends then. We've kept in touch, and it's just been so great to just see how Abby's messages evolved, and it's resonating with more and more people. And so without further ado, I would just like to say welcome, Abby. Say a quick hi to everyone, and we'll give you a little wave back.
Hi.
Right, so again, just make sure that your phones are muted, because I saw a few coming on, and I really don't have the tech savvy to mute you myself, and it's just like literally another thing to do. Okay. Abby's got a new book out called Good Food, Bad Diet. I love it. I haven't got a copy of it. Thank you. I've only got it on Kindle. Come on, be a bit more. Let's see a little bit more. And you can see there that what Abby, well, she's basically about like calling out diet culture. And that's sort of where I want to start with the interview today, because come on, Abby, you're a dietitian and you're saying diets are wrong. What's all that about?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying weight loss is wrong for everybody, but I am saying that restrictive diets, they had their day. It wasn't good for anybody. Excuse me. We need to live our best lives or live our best life. But with restriction and punishing ourselves for decades upon decades to achieve a certain weight, it's just not conducive to living your best life. And so let's get rid of those restrictive diets.
Well, what's diet culture taught us, and especially sort of the women in this group as well, who potentially are perimenopausal, menopausal women, like what is it? What does it teach us? Like, can you sort of like explain what diet culture is?
So diet culture is the thinking that being thin should be achieved at any cost, and that thin is worthy and fat is lesser. You know, that's the most simple way to put it, that if you punish yourself to achieve thinness, this is not only acceptable, but desirable. And that staying away from getting fat at any cost is just the way you should do things.
And it's and the message I hear as well is, and especially sort of with the people who are here today, is that, you know, we shouldn't age. Aging is like something we should try and fight, and that like not just thinness is like worthy, but thinness is healthy.
Yeah.
Thinness is the desirable outcome of what we should be looking to achieve as women. It's such a toxic message, right? And I know you're fighting this all the time.
It's a complete rejection of the natural aging process, really. You know, as a woman in her 40s, I've seen my body change, and, you know, the first instinct is always, you know, what's happening and how can I stop this? But diet culture, it promotes that for sure. Like, we see women like Jennifer Aniston, for example, or Jennifer Lopez, who are over.
I always use the Jennifers as well.
I always do too, because they're so easy to target. Yeah. But you see them and they look, you know, they don't look their chronological age. Like, I always say Blanche Devereaux from the Golden Girls was the same age as these women are when she played, when she played Blanche, was Blanche Devereaux at 50. And think about how she looked on the Golden Girls versus Jennifer Aniston now. It's a completely different, it's shifted the expectations for women so much. And this is diet and wellness culture. I'd like to say wellness culture too, because wellness culture has like this huge phobia of aging. That it lays upon us. So yeah, it's just the stakes seem so high now and so unrealistic, and it permeates into every corner of our life, whether we want it to or not, unfortunately.
Right. And then the flip side of that, which you go into a lot in the book, is just the mentality that it tries to feed into women, is that in order for you to be worthy or whatever, you have to give something up. It's all about you losing something, not just the weight, but losing like either a food group or the amount of time to eat, or like, it's always about restriction. And then it's always like hyper focused on what you should weigh. And I'm pretty exhausted with this. I mean, I'm not a registered dietitian, nutritionist, right? But I'm tired of the message, and it gets me down. Like, sometimes I'm seeing that we're trying to put out this really positive messages about things that we need to add and how we can create positivity in this whole movement, and then in the background there's some dickhead like posting out, you follow my Instagram, you know, I'm on a rant at the moment, but I'm very frustrated with it. And so moving from that sort of like point of view, can you talk about the positive things and the things we can add into our life? Because I really want to stop the restrictive conversations if we can. Yeah.
I mean, I think we are so focused on what we shouldn't do. And the first thing that I say, one of the things that I say in my book is that we should really be aware of the shoulds. And the
yes, you do. Oh my God, that was such a good chapter. Sorry, it's menopause brain.
Eliminate first, because when you say I should do this or I shouldn't do that, often it's because somebody else has told you that you shouldn't be doing these things or you should be doing X. It's not really for yourself. So I have a little part in my book that says beware the shoulds. And so one thing that we need to start doing is start living for ourselves and not for anybody else. It's so hard. But also coming from a place of permissiveness, not absolute permissiveness where, you know, because I get all these people saying, well, you're just telling people to eat whatever they want, whenever they want, however much they want. Like, I'm not saying that, dude. Like, stop. All over my social media, I can't take it. But what I'm saying is, if you're eliminating foods unnecessarily, add them back into your diet. Be a pencil, not an eraser. Because
be pencil ladies.
We're so used to what we shouldn't do, or what we can't eat, shouldn't eat. But why? Because Gwyneth Paltrow told us that like lectins are toxic. It's so, don't even get, oh my God. As an aside, after I do this webinar with you, I'm going to the bookstore to pick up Intuitive Fasting, the book. to review it.
I just vomited a little bit in my mouth.
My soul just threw up a little bit, but I'm going to review it. I'm going to give it back because I can't have either that or I'm going to throw it in the garbage. But it was 36.
If you do a ceremonial burn, and it'll look petty, but intuitively, ceremonially burn it.
But anyways, like, just because Gwyneth Paltrow said something or some Hollywood guru, like, is that why are you listening to these people and taking stuff that you love out of your diet? Like, so many people take, for example, dairy out. And when I say
gluten, dairy and gluten, let's go there.
Dairy, gluten are like the triumvirate, right? Excuse me for being hateful towards another profession, but every naturopath says dairy, gluten, and wheat are like toxic. I can't, like, really, no, they're not. And they're not inflammatory. And so, watch who you're listening to, really. And I've had so many people be like, oh, I can actually have yogurt again. Thank you. Because people don't function well from a place of restriction. That's not what you like, where you want to go if you want to live your best life and be happy. Not and look at your health and wellness not only from a physical standpoint but from an emotional standpoint.
Can you look at Sandra's comment she just put in the post? It's brilliant. She said, so much of today's health and wellness messaging is about what you need to take away rather than what you can add to your life. It's very draining and not helpful to mental health.
It's not. And in my book, I have this high value eating, which is the last part of the book. And it's like 10 tenets of high value eating, which is the name I've given to putting all of what you've learned in the book into practice. Being a pencil, not an eraser is the first tenet of high value eating. But high value eating itself is nourishing yourself physically, because of course we want to do that, but also eating in a way that nourishes you emotionally. So often we push the emotional stuff to the back burner in favor of the physical stuff. How much weight am I going to lose? Or, how's this diet going to make me feel? And that's bullshit. Like, I'm tired of that. Emotional health is so important. And it is really what makes an eating plan sustainable.
Well, I was going to say that, right? So let's just work with that, right? So the emotional aspect of it is like, somebody goes on a diet and they lose weight. Chances are they will. If they go on a diet, they're going to lose weight and they stick to it, because we know that happens. But the emotional side of it hasn't been addressed at all. And so it's when they fall off the eating plan that they've chosen without addressing the emotional side, everything just comes back up to the surface again, and you haven't got any sustainable tools that are going to help you have a good relationship with food. And I know that that's really the message that you're trying to drive home with people, that you can't be looking at food with a moralistic standpoint. You can't be looking at food as though it's going to harm you. And the labeling of the clean, the good, the bad it's just got out of hand
already.
Yeah,
it's enough. Like, but you're talking about two things. First of all, the emotional effects of a diet ripple out into all corners of your life. So there's the what it does to your social life, which it's important. Like, if you feel guilty going out with your friends for dinner, that's sad. That's sad to me. Should you do that every single day? No, but like, you have to enjoy things. It ripples out into the people around you, like your kids and your partner. Like, what's your diet doing to them? What are they seeing from you? Like, what example are you setting, and how is it affecting your mood? But also there's the other emotional part, which I address in the first part of my book, and that is the why. So the first part of my book is all about negative core beliefs. And what you're saying, Amanda, is like what you mentioned is a lot of diets, people go on them, or they'll go and they'll pick up a book and they'll be like, okay, yeah, this one gives me like a meal plan and a list of things not to eat. And okay, yeah, great. But it doesn't teach you how to heal your relationship with food. And in a lot of cases, that's what really needs to be addressed, because diets, I think, are just band-aids for what's really bothering us. And in my book, I teach people how to find their negative core beliefs, which most of which have been around since they were kids. And don't get me wrong, this work can be kind of shitty, but it will be very liberating once you do it. So the negative core beliefs, we find them. Each person might have a different one or a different set. I teach readers how to neutralize them and turn them around, expose them to the light, and to make them a positive, turn them into a positive.
Often
That
those negative
really heals you.
It's hard work, and it's not fun. It's not sexy.
No.
Like I'd like you to give us an example of a negative core belief, but I just want to add before you tell us one that I know personally that when somebody stops, and like my husband, I feel like his language is like old school. He'll say, I've just been for a swim, so I'm going to have this croissant, and I've been really good today, so I'm going to have a glass of wine. And I'm just like, do you even know me? Do you even know any? Yeah, anyway, but the negative core belief for him, as I'll say to him, why do you think that the croissant is bad? Like, tell me what's bad about it. Well, Tim Ferriss in his 4-Hour Body said, and I'm just like, oh. But can you give us an example of what, like most people, what you hear?
I'm not worthy unless I weigh X. So this commonly comes up for people who grew up in a house where both parents or one parent was dieting all the time and making disparaging comments about their own body and making disparaging comments about other people's bodies. And so when often children won't say anything, but they absorb this information subconsciously even, and they begin to grow with the idea that unless their body looks a certain way, that they're not worthy. And so that's obviously untrue. And negative core beliefs, a lot of them are not based in reality. They're not rational, but emotionally we believe them, and they drive our decisions around
exactly
food and how we feel about our bodies and all of that. And so I'm not worthy, unless I weigh X. Another one is I am what I eat, or I am my diet, which is like, of course, linked to, this is clean, so I must be clean. I'm superior because I eat this like organic, free range, friggin' whatever green juice that cost me $16. And those people over there who can't afford it are just like lesser. It's awful.
Yeah. It is awful. And one of the things I really I don't struggle with, but like I get messages from people, that follow me along, and they'll say, but like so-and-so said this in their messaging, right? And this, and I find it really hard to constantly be like, I've been on a bit of a whinge this week, but typically I try and look for positive aspects in things, right? It's sort of my way, but I've got like a bit drained with the amount of crap that's out there. And I've had a couple of emails from people saying, well, why are you calling out like MDs that are talking about food? And why are you saying that we shouldn't follow like a certain person out there? Why? And so part of me, well, the first answer is, well, I'm not Google, so fucking look yourself and stop asking me. But the second thing is like, form your own opinions. But I usually say things from a point of view that's like either researched or, like it doesn't normally come from an emotional side. But how do people disseminate the truth from the mixed messages? I know that's your gig, right? So this is one of the reasons we love you, is because you literally are like, please stop listening to
Mark Hyman.
Okay,
I'm gonna name the beast.
Name the beast, Mark Hyman. He's the one that I've been like emailed a few times, and it's just quackery at its best. And because he's legitimized by the Cleveland Clinic, who a lot of the medical profession are very frustrated about. But he's got 1 million followers, and he's putting out messages where there's an element of truth in there. He'll get the hook. He'll say, where our bodies are like full of inflammation, but then he'll list a whole load of pseudoscience to go with it, and then sell you some supplements, right?
Yeah, of course.
But my question to you is, how do you identify the people that are telling you what you think is science and those that aren't? It's so confusing out there.
It is confusing, and we used to be able to trust that medical professionals like doctors were going to give us information that was truthful and credible, based in the evidence. Like, if you're not evidence-based and you're a doctor, what are you, right? But this is the post-truth era, and it's sadly very, very difficult to discern what information is credible and evidence-based and what's not. So, I mean, there are a couple red flags. Obviously, like if someone is promising you things that like you're going to lose X pounds in X time, that's a promise nobody should make because you don't know. You know, anyone telling you that certain foods are toxic or foods that you inherently know are good, like lentils, chickpeas, fruit, like that kind of stuff is healthy. But there are plenty of doctors out there like, oh, fruit's toxic candy, and you know, lentils and chickpeas are in nightshades, like tomatoes are inflammatory. Like that's bullshit, total bullshit. And you're right, like they take this little kernel of truth. Yes, kidney beans are toxic when you eat them raw, but they don't say that part, right? Of course, you're gonna have like projectile vomiting and you could die if you ate a raw kidney bean, but who's gonna do that? So it's all crazy. Anyone who has a line of supplements, I'm just like, I'm done with you. It's very hard, but there are legit ways that you can tell if someone's legit, and those are a couple of things.
Yeah, and honestly, I've got to be honest, ladies, when I am like someone sent me something recently about the Galveston diet.
Oh my God, I reviewed that.
I know. And so I already had known about this, and I had a ton of red flags. It literally is just, you just don't eat, basically, right?
You don't eat.
And it's a gynecologist who's got no nutritional training that as claims to be the expert. So instead of like wondering what it was really about, I just always do Abby Langer and then the name of the diet, because inevitably she's done a review, and you will say, but this is a good part of the diet. This is what I really like. You know, they're encouraging you to eat more vegetables, be more plant-based.
I try not to be like completely negative. Sometimes it's impossible, but you know.
Yeah, and so and try and seek out the people that really are like telling it like it is, but it is really difficult out there. And so I'm going to go down more to like the finite sort of like things about nutrition now, but we'll head over to the chat where pretty standard questions that I really think would be great to answer because there's no clarity about them. So would you say organic is better than non-organic produce?
No, it's not. It's not better, especially nutritionally. I'm not going to comment about environmentally just because that's not what I want to address right now. But even environmentally, there hasn't been any sort of solid evidence showing that organic anything is more nutritious, significantly more nutritious than conventionally grown things. And in fact, we don't need enough produce to begin with. And so this is the thing, this is one of the things I really cannot stand about docs like Mark Hyman. He's just like, you have to eat all organic produce and grass-fed, you know, whatever. And I'm just like, why are you scaring people about food? Really? Because organics actually use pesticides too, deadly pesticides. And there's no evidence to back up the claim that you should be eating organic. Do not go to Environmental Working Group and look at their Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. It's such a scam. Environmental Working Group sort of positions themselves as a government agency, but they're not. They're like an activist agency, and they're super biased. I did a whole thing on them, and it's just like the research they use to come up with their numbers is, I mean, like the worst, most misleading research ever. So, but I just had someone on my social media being like, well, Dirty Dozen Clean 15. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's not something you should be listening to.
There's a couple of good resources for anyone who's interested in that to follow. If you're on Instagram, Food Science Babe and Farm Babe are both brilliant. I mean, this is what they do. Like Food Science Babe is a scientist, and she's broken all of this down. So as far as the environmental and the pesticide standpoint, I had a really great conversation with somebody the other day when I sort of said, really, like the the problem I have with the notion that organic is better is it comes from a place of privilege, and that not everybody can afford it. And she said, oh, I will only eat organic. And I said, why? And she went, because if I eat all the organic food, all of the regular produce will be left for those that can't afford organic. And I'm okay with that, because I don't think it's any better, but it just opens up the doorway for more of the other produce to be available. But it's always available. We have so much food waste in this country.
Weird justification.
I know.
What?
I know it doesn't make any sense. So no, the answer is no, it doesn't. There's no robust studies. And then can you give a definition of what you consider to be healthy eating, which is a very broad.
I mean, high value eating. Healthy eating is a way of eating that nourishes you physically and emotionally, that doesn't take away from your life, but adds to it. And one that recognizes the beauty of food and exists with a variety of food, like a diet that has a variety of food. It contains Oreos and chocolate bars, but it also contains a ton of vegetables and a ton of plants. And, it's not, healthy eating is not restriction. I don't think ever. And someone just asked me about intermittent fasting, talking about restriction. It's not for everybody. I try to be fair about this stuff, because intermittent fasting does have some good positive research behind it. Absolutely. If you have like any hint, like a whisper of an eating disorder, don't even look at that word. Don't even consider it. But otherwise, I mean, if I know there are people who do intermittent fasting and have been very successful at it. And I mean, sorry, someone just knocked on my door, and my dog.
Oh, that's fine, don't worry, it's okay.
I don't know why someone's at my door at like 1:30, but
and so and I know that there's a lot of research to show that there can be some benefits to intermittent fasting, but we also know that it can have a detrimental impact on some women and their overall health, hormonal health. It's stressful, right? And so for some reason it's become a dogma. And that's what I get frustrated with, the dogma. Oh yeah, well I do intermittent fasting. And then you'll have all the people coming out going, oh, well, I don't eat breakfast anyway. I haven't for 2 years. It's like this cycle. But then, people have built businesses around the idea that intermittent fasting is literally the only way to eat. People have done TED Talks on it, and it's very, very convincing. And the way I would look at this is I would say to people, but why? Do you not like eating breakfast? Why are you doing it? What's your ultimate goal? Is it because for somebody, don't worry about the dog, is it for somebody like me that literally doesn't get hungry until 10 o'clock? That's intermittent fasting, but maybe I'm doing it intuitively, like Gwyneth. But I think that my main issue with it is that people do it because they believe it's what they have to do in order to get healthy or lose weight, and it's not essential, is it?
You know what? This is a red flag. What you talked about right this second is when someone talks about a diet and makes it seem like it's the best or the only way to be healthy or to lose weight. It's a red flag. And it does happen a lot with intermittent fasting. And it also happens a lot with ketogenic diet. It's like either you're on these diets or you're doing it wrong. That's not true.
Have many of these diets been studied on people like us?
Yeah, I mean, intermittent fasting, like I said, I mean, neither of them have really good long-term research. Absolutely. And there are ways to do them that I don't agree with. Like, for example, intermittent fasting, there's a trend now to do more longer term fasts, and have only 4 hours a day eating. I think not only is that horrible for you emotionally, but how are you going to get all your nutrients in just 4 hours? It's called OMAD, one meal a day. It's just, you can take anything too far, and that's a good example. Yeah.
And somebody I think it's worth reminding people that you sort of fast anyway. Your body fasts naturally when you sleep.
Yeah.
Your body fasts when you exercise. Like there's natural fasting times in your life as well, outside of like the religious ones. Like, and so when people say they want to fast, I'm like, maybe just eat your dinner a bit earlier if you want to. Like, you don't have to be so extreme in things. I have friends that have tried the 5-2 method, which they basically have 2 days of no food. Oh, someone's just popped that up there, a 5-2.
Yeah.
2 full days of no food.
Then they bank the calories. This is the thing. I tried it for a blog post, and I was like, it was so bad. I was so hungry, and it was awful. I mean, and let me just put it this way, like, some people will be fine with it. There's always someone who it's going to work for. And the definition of work would be different for everybody. But, you know, it's just, you end up overeating a lot of the time because you're starving. And what kind of life, like, really? I don't know. It's just hard.
And then you, like you said about the eating disorder side, the emotional eating, Sandra's said that her doctor told her husband to do it without even addressing the emotional side of it. And if somebody has emotional eating disorders of any type, then you have to address that. You don't want to restrict yourself or put yourself in any more of harm's way.
Doctors do that all the time with the keto diet too. They're like, oh yeah, just go on the keto diet, as if I'd like to put them on the keto diet.
How much training do doctors get in nutrition, please?
Very, very little. So, I mean, it's shocking, but it's not surprising that a doctor would say that. I see it all the time, but they don't have the time or the experience to delve into the emotional feelings behind eating. And so they should refer you out or refer him, but looks like that doctor didn't even do the work to see that your husband has, you know, emotional issues behind his eating.
Yeah. And I'm going to go to a question now, but I'm going to sort of tag on to Louise's question about insulin resistance. She's saying that she's getting ads about it. And I really like the topic of insulin resistance. And I'm going to get you to talk on it more, only because, you know, we know that menopausal women may be at risk sort of heading that way. And so, and people instinctively think, if there's a chance that my insulin sensitivity is going to change, I have to do something about my food. And we know so much more that insulin is more than just food, right? It's whole life. It's a lifestyle things that we can do can help improve our insulin resistance, right? So can you sort of talk a little bit about that?
So insulin resistance is a thing. It means that our body is less sensitive to the insulin that we produce. It's not the same as diabetes. And yes, Amanda's right. When we go through menopause, we do have a chance of a risk is higher of becoming more insulin resistant. And the things that we can do, I mean, if you're eating a lot of refined carbohydrates, or, you know, you have gained a little bit of weight, that may exacerbate it, but I think it's also can be hereditary, and exercise can help it as well. So it's important to be active and to really eat as high of a quality diet as you can. But, you know, all of these I've seen the ads, and it's just like, it's fear-mongering mixed with an oversimplification of the science behind insulin resistance. And it makes it seem like every fat person is insulin resistant, which is not true.
No.
And every older woman is going to be insulin resistant, and you should just be like so careful because it's going to be such a problem. Like, it's just not the case.
Yeah, it is a lot of fat shaming. And we also know that thinner people can become insulin resistant.
Absolutely.
It's not, and improving your sleep and, like you say, moving more and managing stress levels all impact the improvement of it. So yeah, I mean, I know you wouldn't go for the products anyway, but it's very, very frustrating that's, I think, marketing about weight loss in general is all around fear. And the problem with that is that fear sells, but the calming sort of like basic information you're giving isn't isn't dynamic enough, right? We're like saying, improve your relationship with food, and someone else is saying, but I can make you lose 10 pounds in 21 days. Who's going to win, right? It's awful.
And I find that companies are really targeting postmenopausal women now.
Oh, yes.
Like the Better Body Company. It is a lot of fat shaming. Louise is right. I mean, I wrote a post on them, and it's just, their ads are disgusting. Like a woman crying because she has a muffin top. Like, what is this? Like the fucking 1970s? Like, get a life. And women, like, it's just, it makes you feel like, again, perpetuating that stereotype of like, you know, we all have to look like a Hollywood celebrity, and we all have to, you know, reject this concept of like aging, and aging is so awful. And when really menopause, and you know this, perimenopause and menopause, it's your body doing what it knows how to do. It's like a normal physiological process here. Like, why are we trying to scare women and shame them into buying supplements that do not work? FYI.
Ka-ching, ka-ching. That's why. Like you know, I believe honestly that it's, you know, we're probably more financially secure than like our 20-year-olds we were when we were 20 or 30, and they see vulnerability and they see fear, and then
vulnerability 100%, because everyone, hello, you're looking at in your mirror, and you're like I said before, I'm seeing my body change, and it's like, it's weird.
Yeah, and we can be bitches to ourselves for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I really like this next question, and it's something I talk about in my book as well. And it's like, you know, like maybe I've had this conversation with a bunch of people. I wonder if more women need to have like an acceptance that then their new weight is their new set point.
Yes.
It might maybe is like 5 or 10 pound over or something, but you know, that they have to trust the body to be more intelligent than, you know, instead of fighting it all the time. And we do potentially have a new set point as we get older, and especially through menopause as well. And somebody's just said there, I firmly believe in set point weight theory. Yeah. And
right,
so
it's true. And you're right, Amanda. I mean, I've told a lot of women, this is maybe how much you weigh now. I mean, you cannot weigh, well, you can, but likely you're going to gain weight from when you were 25 or 30 or even 40. Like the weight, it does creep up. It doesn't mean that you have unhealthy habits necessarily. It's your body's, your hormone levels are dipping, and you're putting on more fat, and it's in different places too. And so, yes, I believe in set point theory, and I do believe in acceptance of, you know, like if you put on a couple of pounds, like instead of trying desperately to punish yourself and take off those pounds for years and years and years and making yourself feel awful, just accept them. It's okay. It's okay. We're all going through this.
Yeah. And like to add on to that, I would then say, and then just do your absolute utmost to be as healthy as you can with what you've got. You know that we know the things that work to improve our health, and it's doing your high value foods, right? And it's exercising, and it's sleep and stress management and blah, 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 blah. But you know what? It's not a pill for 21 days, right? Okay. So I'm loving this. It's so exciting. We're getting all meaty, and the time it's already been 40 minutes, but I sort of want to be a bit more specific now, because Abby's rants are my favorite things, and she does these little sound bites. And one of my favorite ones was about sugar. And the reason the reason I like this one is because, you know, I'll often hear women say, oh, I quit sugar, and I'll go, okay, fine. And so instead I only use maple or honey or coconut sugar.
Oh my God.
And so there's a belief system from people that maybe don't have the nutritional knowledge that by replacing the white sugar with honey, and honey does have health benefits. Well, I'm not saying it doesn't, but the ultimate end result is going to be more beneficial. And I want Abby to just clean up the sugar conversation.
Okay. Sugar is sugar. Whether it's maple syrup, honey, agave, coconut sugar, brown rice syrup, white sugar, it's all the same to your body. High fructose corn syrup may be metabolized a bit differently, but in the end, It's all sugar. So anytime some paleo blogger is like, I've got a sugar-free recipe for you, it only has half a cup of maple syrup, like, what the hell do you think maple syrup is? It's sugar. Just ignore them, because, and I always say to people, choose the sweetener you like. So if you like maple syrup or you like raw sugar, then choose that, but just use less. Your latte is not healthier though, because you're using a brown sugar. That's just white sugar with molasses. Sugar is not healthier because it's less like refined or processed or raw or like anything of the sort. And lastly, I mean, I have a lot of people throwing shade at me. Do the kids still use that term?
No, you're such a boomer, but never mind, carry on.
No, I'm not. Because they're like, well, coconut sugar has nutrients in it. What? Are you eating sugar for nutrients? Are you serious? Because even if you ate sugar at every meal, coconut sugar, you still wouldn't accrue enough micronutrients to make a difference. So just use what you like, use less of it, and move on.
Yeah, use less of it. And I think that, like, to me, that's so great. The important thing to remember is that it's the excess sugar that is the problem. It's the added sugar and the excess sugar. And so, like, for example, I love baking and I've tried all of the other sugars just to try them. And I literally go back to brown sugar and white sugar in every cake. Every time, because it actually makes the cake nicer, and I just don't eat the whole freaking cake, right? And so it's all about the quantity as well. And so I know I've been out with people and they've had like a healthy muffin, and there's probably about 800 calories in this bloody muffin that's made of coconut sugar that is no healthier than the one. Yeah, not at all. And can you just add on to that about replacement sugars, please?
Sure. So stevia tastes like death, but if you like it, okay, whatever. It's the same for replacement sugars, really. Like, use less. I find that especially with sugar substitutes that are several times sweeter than regular sugar, if you eat them a lot, it sort of trains your body to expect sweet. And it's better to just use less and untrain your body to expect sweet with everything you consume. Sugar alcohols can give you really bad gas. Sucralose, which is otherwise known as Splenda. There are studies, people are all like, it messes your gut bacteria up, blah, blah, blah. But those studies are on rats who were given like so much sucralose, and it's just, we don't know what sweeteners do to our gut bacteria, but I wouldn't take those studies. Like, I take them with a grain of salt. Yeah, muffins are breakfast cake. That's what dietitians call them, breakfast cake.
That's funny. And it's all in the dose, right? It's just, I think we've forgotten what it's like to have a balanced view of food. That's sort of, do you remember when everyone used to say, I'm on a balanced diet? And it actually was at the time when the Mediterranean diet and everyone was doing it. And it was actually probably one of the healthiest diet phases in our history. But let's tag onto it, the fruit thing, because you've no idea how many people will email me and go, I can't eat a smoothie anymore. I've realized it's got 50 grams of sugar in it.
Well, okay. Fruit is definitely different from the sugar in fruit. It's the same, but it also comes with the fiber and the phytochemicals of the fruit and the satisfaction of the fruit. However, smoothie bowls, or anything like that, yes, if you're going to put like a ton of fruit in there, I really have to caution you against that. Like, don't be like I say in my book, don't be like my dad. He used to like sit down after dinner with this like massive bowl of grapes and just eat all of them. Oh
yeah, you still remember the grape story. Yeah.
And he was an orthopedic surgeon. They know nothing about nutrition, but it's not, I recommend about 2 servings of fruit a day. You don't have to count your servings, but you can't eat too much fruit. Like, if you have a smoothie bowl and it's made with fruit juice and 6 servings of fruit, like, you're going to be bloated, and it's just a lot of carbs.
Yeah, it is. And that's the thing, it is bloating. You'll be rushed into the toilet. So in your 10 high values, can you, in the high value eating, can you give us your top 5? I know you've got 10, just your top 5. Can you just like give us a high level of them? Just like that, because I think it would be really great for the women listening to go, I can do that, right? That's definitely something I can do.
So, be a pencil, not an eraser is my first, of course. And that's like the most famous one. But also, sounds boring. It's not sexy, but eat whole or minimally processed foods as much as possible. And, I think, we all have different price or financial situations, and not all ultra processed food or processed food is bad. But if you choose whole foods more often, it just puts the quality of the food is generally better. Okay, so that. The other one that I really like is, I like them all because I invented them, but is understand your lifestyle. Like, how often have I seen someone try to make their lifestyle fit around a diet? And even the diet in like what you eat versus like the food you eat versus a restrictive diet, but just like a way of eating. You can't do that. It just won't work, But so understand your lifestyle. Do you travel a lot? Do you, what are the conditions in which you live? Like all of that, and take that into account when choosing a way to eat, right?
Yeah, good one. That's really good. And I've never even thought of that though until I read it in your book. And it's true. Like, I remember my dad, he's always been a big guy and he tried to lose weight. So he did paleo and he didn't even like meat.
Right. Okay. So this is
it's stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like going full on vegan. Like, you remember that? What was that thing, that Netflix documentary? It was like,
Game Changers.
Game Changer. And everyone was like, yeah, I'm going vegan. Yeah. And then it lasted like two weeks at the most because it didn't fit their lifestyle. Yeah. So, and then the one that I tag on to that is make peace with your preferences. I see so many people who are like, I don't eat, or I force myself to eat kale and broccoli because that's what's healthy, or celery juice. Don't even get me started. But, oh my God, we're not going to even go there. That would be like the most epic rant ever. But
yeah, we should just do that one day, but yeah.
We should. But if you don't like this food, there's so many foods in the world. Don't eat things because you think you should. There's the word should again.
Yeah.
Eat the food that you love. You have a lot of options. And another, it's about balance, which is another high value eating tenet. It's okay. Like some days, you need a hamburger, and other days you need a salad, and it all works out. But by feeling guilty or ashamed of your food choices, it puts you in a downward, like a vortex of horribleness. Understand that it's unrealistic to eat in a certain way every single day. Your days aren't all the same. Your caloric needs are not all the same every single day. So why should you eat this in the same way every single day, right?
Yeah.
So choose what you love and balance it out. It's easier said than done, but I teach that in my book.
Yeah, it's removing the guilt. The guilt, I think, as well, is so key, because how many times have we eaten the muffin? We'll go back to the muffins because it's our like train of thought today, and go, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I wish I'd never done that. I don't, because I really
obsess about it, and then it ripples out into everything. Then you're like, in my situation, I'm a bitch to like someone because I'm like feeling bad about myself, and then then you feel like you have to over exercise, which then leads to overeating again because you're starving, and then it's just get over it. Just eat what you want and get over it. And invariably someone will say to me, you know what, like I have food addiction or I have X and I can't do that. And listen, these are outliers. This book is not for people with eating disorders. It is for people who are average, like all of us, or most of us, right? So, but yes, it's about balance and removing that, quieting that diet voice and removing that guilt and shame, and understanding why you make the food decisions that you do and why you feel the way about your body that you do. And sort of trying to get to the bottom of that, cleaning out your closet, which is what I call getting to your why, and moving forward. I really truly believe there's no meaningful, long-lasting change in nutrition without figuring out your why first. in getting to the bottom of those negative core beliefs. Everything else is just a Band-Aid.
Awesome. Wasn't that awesome? Did y'all get chills? That was great. Yeah. Bravo, bravo. That was awesome. It's so freeing and so refreshing to have this type of conversation seriously. And anyway, I absolutely love that. So has anybody got any questions to finish? Because are you getting hand claps? Because if not,
thank you.
Oh no, we're getting some thank yous. I'm going to get Abby, hold up your book, darling. We're going to do the giveaway open to everybody. If there's anybody in the UK, I don't believe we can ship to the UK. Is that correct?
I can ship it to the UK. Just
look at this. She's opening it up to everyone. So there's one copy of Abby's book, and you have to answer the question. It's literally the first person that comes on. And what I want to ask you is, tell me what your why is. And you have to think about this one. Mandy, what? There you go, Mandy, you're there. Mindy.
Mindy.
It's Mindy, not Mandy. You know, I used to become.
Where are you?
I am a Mindy. Mindy, if I'm right in thinking, Mindy Westaway. There you go. She wants to do it for her kids. And I love that because you said before, we set the example. I don't want my kids to have a bad relationship with food because they've heard me going, oh, it's a treat day. I can only eat my chocolate today, right? It's setting
the worst.
Yeah. Other things we've got there, Joyce, because I feel better, to feel good for your health, to enjoy life, for lifestyle. These are like longevity. That's my thing, Nora, actually, longevity. I want to nail this aging shit, and I want to like do it bulletproof my body going forward, right?
That's your next book.
Bulletproof your age, nail the aging shit. So this book is available on Amazon for anyone that wants to pick it up. It's such a great read. It's really easy to read as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm all about like books that I can just don't want to put down. I can't be done with over sciencey books, which is sort of why I wrote mine like I was speaking. And just the like someone said, the change of attitudes. If it's where the dirty hard work starts, but it's where the real benefits happen. Mindy, if you could send me an email, if you don't have my email address, I'll give it here, and we'll send you a book out. Amanda@fitandchips.com. Abby, thank you so much for joining us today. It was so great. I know we'll take a lot from this. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. It's great to see you all. I love it. It's so nice. This is like my social life now, I suppose. And follow Abby on abbylanger.com. That's correct, isn't it?
Abby Langer Nutrition.
abbylangernutrition.com. Anytime you see a diet that you don't like, literally just go in their search engine, because she's inevitably done her research on it, and just get sort of like the lowdown on what's going on. Follow her on Instagram and Twitter. That's where she busts the move out there, the truth telling. And anyway, yeah, so please follow along, and thank you for joining us. And I'm going to keep doing more of these, so just keep checking your email, and I'll have some other great guests on in the next few weeks. I'm going to probably do maybe 1 or 2 a month, not too much. You don't want too much of me, it's exhausting. Thank you, everybody. Take care. It was great to see you all. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.